Greetings and welcome to another edition of the Pedalshift Project. The Pedalshift Project is a series of conversations, thoughts, and experiments on bicycle travel adventures. From tips and tricks to ideas on how to ride your ride, let's shrink the world by bike. Show notes and more are available at pedalshift.net/394, and you can email the show at pedalshift@pedalshift.net or text me at 202-930-1109 and check Pedalshift out on all the socials as well. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 394th edition of the Pedalshift Project. My name's Tim Mooney. Thanks so much for joining. On this edition, you suffer through my cold, and also, it's the Florida Coast Part 1. Look, the first day of the Florida Coast adventure starts from the cooler air of Jacksonville, Florida, and it eventually carries me south through a series of beach towns on the way to a state park outside of St. Augustine with two entrances. The short way has a locked gate, which I was going to go for, but would I be able to get through it? Or would I have to go all the way back around, complete with extra miles, just to get to camp? Folks, before we get to the stunning beginning of this wonderful trip that I loved so very much, an announcement. Hold the date. Pedalshift 400 Live will be Friday, April 11th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Check out Pedalshift on YouTube or pedalshift.net/live for more. Ask me anything for sure. The rest is a surprise, maybe to me as well. Hope to see you there. Good morning from Jacksonville, Florida. More specifically, Blount Island. I always worry I'm going to be mispronouncing all these places because I'm not from here. Jacksonville. A big city, arguably one of the larger ones in the country by landmass in terms of like its borders and stuff, because they just made it really big, but it is a smaller piece of the pie population-wise. So the airport is smaller. I am here this morning with a weird situation. Last night, as you probably all know by now, and I am still learning about, there was a very tragic plane crash in my hometown, in D.C. Is D.C. my hometown? Where I live. And that's weird, because I did not fly out of DCA, the airport that I normally do. I was in Jacksonville long before that, but it is still pretty weird to have heard about all of this and read those headlines and have listened now to the podcast this morning as I wake up, learning more about it because I went to sleep right when I discovered it. But yeah, it's very strange and very weird. And of course, I'm going through all sorts of different things in my head about how long or short one's life is, with the passing of my dad and all of those things. So it's a very strange headspace to be in as I am about to embark on a trip. Travel comes with risks, and of course, even doing what I do comes with some degree of risk. So it's a weird headspace to be in, but in the couple of moments that I'm reflecting upon all of this, I have to say I'm doing what I want to be doing. And that's, I think, the solution to all of these horrible tragedies is, hey, are you doing what you want to be doing? And the answer to that is a definitive yes. So I'm grateful for that. And I feel, of course, awful. The people I just learned this morning on that plane were doing what they were wanting to do. There were folks who were figure skaters apparently on that plane, coming back from either a competition or something that was happening in Wichita. And they had dedicated their life to figure skating, and they were doing what they wanted to be doing. And so it's just a reminder that we all have an expiration date, and we don't have a lot of control over that. So anyways, super philosophical way to start the entire journey, the beginning of a podcast, the beginning of the journey. But I just wanted to share where my headspace is at the moment on these types of things, because I think it's important. It maybe gives you a sense of, hey, where's my attitude? What am I talking about right now? How did it go yesterday? How did it go? It went fine. It went really fine. I'm grateful that I was on a plane that took off from Baltimore, not from D.C., because there was a direct flight on Southwest from Baltimore, as I had mentioned in the preview episode. And it went fine, except for the traffic was insane going up there. It took me probably 50% extra time because of traffic in the middle of the afternoon, for reasons that are unclear to me why that was. So I was getting to the point where I was like, I've eaten up all my buffer time, and I was worried about a line at the airport, and there was nothing at the airport. It was really quiet, eerily quiet in retrospect. But the checking in went just fine. Nobody in any of the airports in Baltimore or DC has ever given my bike, my Brompton, a second look. It is so fun and nice to now not stress about that. It doesn't mean that I don't bring an extra Dimpa bag just in case the bike is forced to be checked, but I do things to ensure that I'm in front of the line, or as close to front of the line as I possibly can be on these flights. And I have backups, but there was no problem. Nobody gave it a second look. Nobody even asked. TSA didn't even ask. It was great. And that's becoming more the norm. And I think that if anything ever did happen, that would be the surprise now, as opposed to me being geared up for all of that. So it went in fine. I half-heartedly took a picture of the bike in the overhead and didn't even do a selfie in it, because now it's just normal. So it's not a big deal anymore to me, which is excellent. And that's the whole point of having a Brompton and doing what I do in terms of traveling with it and whatnot. So I have to say that the fact that there's not a lot of stuff to talk about is actually something to talk about. I think it's remarkable. It's notable that it's become such an easy thing for me. Flew down here, got a lift, got a rideshare from the airport to here. And at the hotel, I'm at a Holiday Inn Express, which apparently serves a port where there's a lot of cruise ships. So it's a really interesting clientele here, people who are coming or going. It seems like they'll park their cars here and then go off on their cruise. But I, of course, have a very different itinerary in front of me. So I'm here. I have all of my junk spread out on the bed. I would like to get out of here within about a half hour when the sun comes up. Hey, why don't we do a little soundscape? Apologies for any echo. I always hate recording in the hotel rooms. That's probably not the one I want. Let's put the nighttime screen. Okay, well, we're already at twilight at this point. Yeah, I would say it is light enough out that I would feel comfortable riding right now. So that actually tells me something, that I should be probably looking to start rolling around 7 rather than 7:30 based on what I'm seeing right now. Even though it's a little bit cloudy out, this is fine for riding. So noted. I believe one of my next couple of days is a longer day by a few miles, and you run out of time on these days just because of the time of year. Sun comes up around 7:30 officially, goes down around 6. So that's not a ton of time. That's well under 12 hours worth of rideable hours from my perspective. I do have lights. I will use them as necessary. I may use my rear light for portions of today, because there is one section here in the beginning where I'll be going by an on-ramp and an off-ramp, but I've already scoped it out with Google Street View, so I already know what's happening. But I'm hoping to get going in a relatively near term here. Notable thing, the dowel that I have used to hook my backpack onto my saddle, I can't find it. So I'm using a monopod that seems to be, I'm just coming over to it, seems to be very sturdy. So we're gonna go with it. It's been zip tied 3 times at 2 different points, so 6 separate zip ties. I think it'll be more than enough. But of course, I'll have to keep monitoring it through the week. But I don't anticipate that it's gonna be a problem. It's humid, more humid than I anticipated, which in retrospect is silly that I anticipated it not being humid. It's been so dry up in the Northeast that I've been using humidifiers everywhere I've gone. Now I'm starting to realize, well, the sweating won't be quite as efficient down here. So there's that. It's going to be a cool start in the morning. Let me just double check on our weather here. It is thrilling audio here. It is currently 47 degrees, so it's chilly, but it's going to be going up to 69, 70 or so. I think it's going to be a little bit warmer south of here towards St. Augustine, which is my eventual destination. exciting parts to what's to come. I've got a ferry across the St. Johns River, which means, reminds me I have to get my ferry pass. It is a part of the local transit system, so I will be utilizing local transit as a part of my ride today, which is exciting. And then it's A1A, and A1A is part of the East Coast Greenway. I'll be joining the East Coast Greenway in a matter of about 10 miles, and that's going to be my companion for day 1 and day 2. That's going to be fun to have a piece of the East Coast Greenway be part of this Florida Coast adventure. And then, of course, we end up on that Florida Coast to Coast Trail. We'll talk more about that in future episodes. But I'm looking ahead to these things just because I want to be able to savor the whole trip in its entirety while trying to stay in the moment as much as I can. Just looking out the window, windows, doors, so confusing. It does look like there is some traffic, which I just didn't know what to expect at this hour. Getting out earlier probably is for the best. It'll be interesting, that one kind of pinch point with the on-ramp and off-ramp, how easy or hard that's going to be, because it will be rush hour, presumably. It's only a couple of miles up from here. But I'll do it safe, I'll do it smart, and if it's crazy, then I'll just figure it out, like I always do. But a little bit of, not nerves, I think it's more excitement than nervousness, because this is a trip I've really been looking forward to for a while. I really need this trip. I've already talked about in my awkward open to all of this, how there's some weird stuff going on in the background here that's making me very reflective and philosophizing a lot. But yeah, I think it's time. I think it's time to get the bike together. I think it's time to pack up, and I think it's time to go. I am on the second floor, so I'm trying to decide whether it makes sense for me to roll everything fully packed and try to get into that elevator fully packed, or if I should get everything together and have the backpack on and put the backpack on downstairs. I think I'm leaning towards the latter, just to be on the safe side. I think it will be easier to maneuver this bike without the big fat backpack on the back. It may even be better for me to just bring everything downstairs and assemble fully downstairs, but that's going to be harder for me to do. I'll keep you posted. I'll do that offline for you. One other thing that I should mention, I talked about how I had a new microphone system. I have managed to, in my travels over the last month and a half, misplace these brand new awesome microphones, which I do think made a big difference. And I wish I could have had them for you on this one, but I don't. So the likelihood of there being some wind noise on this particular set of episodes is, well, it's high. So I'm going to try my best to eliminate wind noise. I've got actually a separate recording system for this, not just my phone. I'm using another device for it. I'm using the tried and true Apple headphones as best as I can to try to make this as good audio as I possibly can for you. I swear I will find those microphones. I swear. All right, more to come. We are rolling. I am enjoying the cool air, I have to say. The inside, I think I'd mentioned, was pretty warm. I think people down here, when it's 47 degrees, think that's about the coldest thing that they could possibly have. Me, this is aces. This is perfect for me. I did not check my total tire inflation here, but everything seems fine. I think I would have preferred if I had done a really good, robust fill-up, but I did not have the opportunity to do that before I left, but I did give the unscientific little pinch, and it was fine. I'm currently in a left turn lane on a pretty busy road, so I'll take you along for this less than awesome portion of the ride. I probably should do the sidewalks here. I ordinarily would, but there aren't really at this point, so I'm hoping for a left turn arrow and some semi-patient drivers behind me, although I'm sure they will pass me as we turn left, so I'll take a wide left as I do this. Sun's out. I'll be going into the sun, which is not great considering that'll blind some drivers as I am going. So in a little bit here, I've got the one area of not awesomeness. I'm hoping that the sun is positioned in the sky a little bit better at that point, but we'll see. Okay, I got my left turn arrow. I'm taking it nice and wide, and as I expected, I got past, which is fine. And yeah, here we go. Bike update, riding kind of nice. It is worth noting that by the way, I'm just going past the 295 on ramp, and the timing was great because everybody was past me who wanted in. But yeah, there's a bit of a shimmy when you've got so much weight on the back, as high as it is. It's the one downside to this system, is that you do have to pack your bike in kind of a smart way. There's also a little shimmy on the front, because although it is on the luggage block, the Ortlieb sticks out a bit. So there's some downsides to this fully loaded system, but I'll be honest, you get used to it pretty quickly. And once you're used to it, right? My cockpit is a little loose, I've noticed. And when I say my cockpit, it's the bars here that are the second bar. I'm seeing up ahead to the pinch point, and as you can hear, there's a fair amount of traffic, so I'll just keep you along for the ride on this part. Yeah, rush hour is robust right now, and I don't think it's going to get any better, so it's not worth waiting. Just to describe here, I've got kind of an off-ramp from 295 onto this road. They've got their green, now we've got ours, so off I go. There is a bike lane here, but on a road this busy, and as you can hear, with these kinds of trucks, it's not super great. This is me just getting east of really the very busy parts. As once I get past this next on-ramp, off-ramp, which is much less of a busy road compared to 295, which is an interstate, things should be a lot better. The other thing that I've got going for me is a wider lane starting now. Let's see here. I am going to take advantage of a little break in traffic here and work my way around. All right, yes, so now we went from probably a 4-foot wide lane to about 12 feet. Substantially better. One thing that I did not do, which I think I wish I had done, is I did not lube the chain. But if you recall to last year, when I lubed it, I had a problem where it threw. So you do have to be careful about how much lube you put on the Brompton. But overall, I'm feeling pretty good about things here. I think I'll have more time to adjust things later. Certainly in camp. By getting this early start, I'm really hoping that I make good time, I make good miles. I get to St. Augustine early enough that I can grab some food, go to camp, still have some daylight maybe even, and adjust, handle things as necessary. I think it'll be fine. You also may recall last year, if you were with us, and if not, go listen to last year's ride. It was fun. One of the problems with the Brompton sometimes is over time your saddle post will sink, because it's just held up by a friction clamp basically, and over time it'll sink. But with the backpack on it, it never sinks beyond a certain point, which is great. And so there's no adjustments that have to be made. You're not always out of adjustment a little bit. Yeah, it's feeling pretty good. Well, I'm gonna let you go for this next portion, just because it is a little bit gnarly, and I'll tell you more about it when I get to the end of it. Well, sometimes the things I identify as potential problems are nothing, and that was an example of it. There was literally no traffic, and so I just went right through it. It could have been, if there had been traffic, been a little bit of an issue, but not so much. I don't have a lot of amenities on this front portion of the ride, and there are a couple of gas station tackle shops, and I'm passing one of the last ones right here, but I have plenty of water, and I also have a bagel from the breakfast that I had. So, and I have some nuts. So I think anything that I would get would be just for the sake of getting it. I've had plenty of caffeine this morning. So I think we're just gonna go just bang out miles as best we can. Okay, let's see. So we've got a shoulder update. Shoulders from here on out are gonna be just fine. This is back to your typical kind of rural road shoulder bike lane. Probably about 4 feet wide, 5 feet wide. It's always hard for me to judge, but plenty. And it is marked as a bike lane. This is a pretty commonly used bike route in this part of the state. And of course, once we get to the trail or the route, it will very much be. So, all right. Now that we've gotten through my stress of the day, I can also enjoy a little bit lighter traffic, although it probably doesn't sound like that to you, and just the beautiful sun on the water with a fishing trawler as my views here on the St. Johns River. St. Johns River is to my right at the moment, going eastbound or nearly eastbound towards the Atlantic Ocean, where I'll be taking a right and going for a couple of days. So much more to come as we hook up with the East Coast Greenway in a few minutes. We are about 5 miles in, so about halfway to the ferry, and the road has gotten much quieter. The asphalt is plenty awesome, and I am enjoying the ride so far. A little bit warm already for me. I'm sweating, which does not portend well for the rest of this ride. Mainly because, let me just downshift here a bit. I'm gonna need a lot of liquids. If I'm sweating at 50 something degrees, I'm going to be riding in temperatures that are 20 something degrees more than this Fahrenheit. So early mornings are probably really good ideas for me, and being very mindful of my hydration as we get into the afternoon hours. It looks like for most of the trip, the highs are going to be probably around when I'm hopefully getting into camp. So, I'm hoping that a lot of the days it won't be so bad. But, if today is any indicator, I'm going to be having full sun days. And we all know the sun is my enemy, particularly when I have not seen it very much over the last few months. So, yeah, going to be very careful about hydration and being very careful about making sure that I stay as covered up as possible, which, of course, when all is said and done, that's contradictory with the heat. But I have learned that having some good loose-fitting button-down shirts can be helpful. So I do think that one of the things I may consider doing is taking off the shirt that I have underneath this and just rocking the button-down shirt if it does get warmer later. So lots of options for me. Oh, look, a big knife. Someone lost their knife. I would stop for that, but I already have a knife, so I don't need it. Wildlife has been abundant so far, of course, as you might expect, being right here on the St. John River. I've been going over a bunch of different islands and causeways that go over between these islands. Really quite picturesque. We have left the residential area, and I think that we're getting closer to probably what must be very swampy land that is not suitable for building. So that must also mean that we're getting closer, which I know we are because I can see a map, to the end of the St. Johns River. I keep saying St. John's. Is it St. John or St. John's? You Canadians understand my problem with this. The road is straight as an arrow, does undulate a little bit, so, and I am catching a little bit of a headwind, just almost unnoticeable. It's definitely not impacting me. The prevailing winds usually this time of year are probably going to help me. They do they do go from north to south, except when they don't. So I have not checked the weather app today to see what's going on with that, but my intense desire is, especially after having done the e-bike trip last fall, which you folks have, of course, just recently heard, I caught a ton of headwind and I had the battery to help me through that. I have no battery on this one. This is all purely acoustic, of course. So we'll just have to hope that the wind gods shall smile upon me. Traffic, as you can hear, it's there. This road is 45 or 50 miles per hour, which is very typical of Florida. I find they just love having their 2-lane secondary roads be pretty fast. But big shoulder, I feel very safe where I'm at right now. I am hugging, of course, more to the right than to the left or center, which would make sense for a bike lane, that's for sure. Okay, I think that's the update. I think the next time you'll hear from me may be from the ferry, or as I'm thinking about getting on the ferry. They run about either every 15 minutes or every half hour. I do not recall. I just know that it's frequent enough that I was not going to look at the schedule and try to time it, because that just doesn't make much sense. If I miss one, and I'll just take a break there. Taking a break is probably a good idea at that point anyways. I have not had any water yet because I haven't really stopped. Except for one small section, it's worth noting. I was taking the sidewalk across one of the bridges, and there was a guy who was fishing, and he had a big cart, and he was very serious. I think he was using crawfish as his bait. And we had a nice little encounter there, and he helped get his stuff out of the way. And I was like, "Oh, sorry to interrupt your fishing." He goes, "No, man, this bridge is for everyone," which I thought was awesome. Because he's right. He's right. It was for everyone. But I hope he has extra good luck with the fish. I'm not sure if I've mentioned this on the pod. I have historically tried fishing. I've enjoyed it. I'm just terrible at it. I have really bad luck. There's one picture of me catching a sunfish of some type with Mysterious James way back. That was the last time I went fishing. It's the last time I caught a fish. I figure if I retire now, I could say last time I went fishing, I super caught a fish. Okay, we are getting closer. I can see another causeway. I see more boats. The river is beautiful this morning. The sun will eventually, I will complain about it. You all know that. But for the moment, boy, it is awfully picturesque right now. The grasslands, or the marsh grasses, I should say, and the river. It's just really great. This is exactly what I needed. From the St. John's Ferry. It is a little after 9 o'clock, and I timed it, couldn't have timed it more perfectly. I literally rolled up, and within 2 minutes, the ferry was here to take me across the river. I mean, it's not very far. You can see the other side of the river. It is gorgeous. There are, I don't know what kind of birds these are. They look like pelicans. And yeah, it's $1 as a pedestrian and a cyclist. So super cheap. And this gets me officially on the East Coast Greenway. And I am beyond stoked for that. And it's been a great day so far, and it will continue to be a great day. This has put a smile on my face, and just getting the 10 miles in has shaken off the cobwebs. I feel like the minimal amount of work that I did this winter paid off, and it's all good. All right, more to come. And we are rolling. I guess swimming. What do you call this? Boating. A lot of helicopters out. There's a marine base nearby, I know. Not sure what the audio is like here. Of course, it's pretty noisy, but the ferry itself is very picturesque. And we're almost to the other side. Very short. And you can pretty much see the end of the river as we start getting towards the ocean side of this. I assume that this is a tidal portion of a river. It's too close to an ocean not to be. But yeah, very quick. I mean, like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, I don't know, really quick. So I'm going to take a little bit more of a break. I did camel up a little bit here, and I will start my way down A1A after this. And yeah, now it's beach towns and whatnot for the next couple of days. Should be pretty exciting. All right, so we are at the other side in Mayport Village. I'm very fortunate that both sides have a full bike repair station, which is really nice. I would have on the other side done it, but the ferry came so fast that I didn't have the opportunity to pump up my tires because they are a little on the soft side and they need an adjustment here. So I am trying to get my lock. There we go, undone. I just brought the cinch lock, the auto lock, OTTO lock. There's my accent again, out of Portland, Oregon. I like them quite a bit. They are not the most secure locks in the world, but I don't think they're meant to be. They're perfect for the Brompton on a trip like this. For just going in and out. And when I say going in and out, I went to the restroom facility here, which you got to take advantage of those when you got them, because often they are not super ubiquitous on a route like this, which is a little surprising. I mean, I suppose you could stop at gas stations and stuff, which is fine, but to have a true public park like this, there is a tabby cat who looks like a very outdoor cat, just sitting there staring at a hole in the ground. I assume there's some kind of a rodent there. Let's see, these are, as you would expect, the tools here suffer a bit from the marine influence, so I will not be able to use the crescent wrench. One of the things I want to see if I can tighten here is the saddle. And the way you do that is there's a bolt on there. And one of these fixed size wrenches may be the right size. And I think I might have, nope, not quite. Is it this size? It is that size. And now I can just tighten that a bit. And I suspect that, well, not quite. I'm getting there. Thrilling podcast radio here. Listening to me tighten things. That is much better. That is much better. And I will, oh yeah, that's nice and solid now. So that's good. The other thing that I need to do is back it up a little bit and see if I can do the tires. The one thing about this setup is I do have a kickstand on the back of this, but it can't handle the weight. I really don't use it very much. It's not, for the most part, when I have weight on the back, it's too much weight typically for the bike and to be able to handle itself with the kickstand. And when I don't have weight, I just tuck the wheel under like a Brompton is designed. So it's probably one of the things I use the least. One thing about this station is it is not very helpful for bikes that are top heavy like this, because it is not, the line on it to get to the bike, the pump length is very limited. And so as a result, it's a little bit of a back and forth to try to get the bike into a position where I can pump it. And then it'll be a little challenging, but we will make it happen. I will not force you to listen to any of this. The ferry has left the side. Oh, I can read you the fares because I can see it now. Pedestrians and bikes, as I mentioned, is $1. Motorcycles, $6. Cars are $7 or $8, depending if it's a weekday or a weekend. Very short, but obviously a huge difference, because I think the next bridge is many miles down the other direction, and it is part of the Jacksonville Transit Authority. So I used transit today, which is fun. So ferries, and very rarely get to use ferries. These are fun. Well, a very fun start to this. Now we just have to slog about 42 miles south of here to get to the beautiful St. Augustine, and I will get a campground there. So making mediocre time, but hopefully we'll start to do better here. The sun is starting to warm things up, and yeah, I'm feeling it. I will be reapplying sunscreen for sure. I just refilled my water bottle. Things are good on that level. All right, we're gonna call that a minor fail. Oh, I gotta get out of here because the ferry has come and gone and come back. We'd like to get on the road. So I will do that while talking to you. The pump was a disaster, and I was getting a little worried that it might start to deflate what is in my tires. Let's see, I need to go which way? I need to go straight, because that's the only direction I can go. Yeah, so it was not a good setup. It had been very damaged by the marine air here. So props to whatever county or entity, Jacksonville perhaps, as a city, the transit agency for having it there. but it is not maintained, and the only thing I was able to do was properly firm up these tires, which frankly was good that I was able to do that. I said tires, I meant my saddle. The tires are at the same inflation rate. I'll find another place to get these pumped up. I do have my pump with me, of course, but to get Brompton tires up to the really robust amount of inflation that you need, the hand pump just isn't going to really do it very well. It's very difficult with the Brompton included one. That's basically supposed to give you enough to get going, as of course I learned in Southern California that one time. But you know, it's fine. I would probably be marginally more comfortable if I had a little more inflation in the tires, particularly the front one, which of the two of them, for it to be the one that needs it more, it's fine. The rear one, if it was soft, can really create some issues. I'm passing by, I think one of the final, I shouldn't say the finals, this is the point where I stopped really paying a ton of attention to Google Street View. My planning nature, obviously, I lost some of the time this year to be able to do it, and so I normally will have scoured every single square inch of a route that I'm doing, and that is not the case this year. The good news is, it's just basically go south. That's it. And because I know this is the Greenway, East Coast Greenway, I know that it's at least somewhat decent. I'm not too concerned about it. The shoulders here are sandy, which isn't super great, but I am going to likely be seeing some more sidewalks as we go along here as well. I did make double sure to reapply sunscreen, and I think another thing I'm going to do is lower my long sleeve shirt down to its long sleeveness rather than be rolled up. I'll probably do that after I'm done talking with you, just to, again, put another thing between me and the sun, although I did apply sunscreen to those parts of my arms. Paying particular attention to the face, neck, and ears, because that is the most exposed that I have right here. I'm now getting passed by a bunch of the folks coming off the ferry, but thankfully it is also where the shoulder has become a little more of a shoulder. The pavement here is not nearly as nice. The asphalt, it's more of a chip seal and not a great one, but that's fine. I've got the Atlantic Ocean. I should be able to see reasonably soon off my left shoulder here as we go southbound, and the other nice thing is that the sun is now to my left rather than right in front of me, which makes for better riding, quite frankly. Having the sun in your face is bad when you're going eastbound in the mornings. Good note for cross-country ride coming up, whether I choose to do segments east or westbound. That's a strong argument, since I do a lot of riding in the earlier hours of the day and fewer in the late hours. I do think it's the argument to go westbound. Of course, that's against the prevailing winds for some of the routes I'm looking at. It's always something, isn't it? All right, we're passing by the Coast Guard. Let's see, this is the Jacksonville Annex of the Coast Guard, since we are both at, Operation Reality Check. It's a hurricane evacuation zone. Boy, I would not want to be here during a hurricane, because this is a pretty unprotected area, I would imagine. This is when they want to evacuate, it's probably evacuating from here. That's the initial meeting point, I'm guessing. But yeah, it is. This must be an area that gets flooded all period time when there's any kind of tropical storm or tropical weather here, because it is right at river level, and I presume over my left shoulder here, past some of the marshy areas, you are right at sea level on the Atlantic side too. All right, well, it is simply gorgeous. It was a great break. I wish I could have done a couple of other additional things to the bike, but it's riding great. There's really nothing, just tweak things. I will say, getting the saddle set, it does feel much firmer, so I feel a lot more confident with that. And yeah, this is the beginning of the real heart of the trip here on the Florida coast adventure. The waves off of the river splashing, I'm sure you can't hear that. I'm hoping you can, but I can, so maybe you can too. To my left, the Naval Station Airport, so we've got multiple armed forces. I'm terrible with this stuff. Apologies if you serve. beautiful weather, beautiful birds all around here. Just saw a cormorant. See pelicans of different stripes. I've taken pictures of a few of them. And we're firmly on A1A with a 50 mile per hour speed limit, but a very comfortable shoulder for someone like me. So super fun to be on a new route and super fun to be in a different part of the state than I've ever cycled in. So happy to be bringing it along for you. Continuing on here, I'm about 14 miles into the ride here. Not sure what city or town I'm in. On a busier road here, so I've switched to sidewalk. There is no specific bike infrastructure, which honestly is pretty common here in Florida, that lots of sidewalks that will serve you if you think that's fine, which I do. Interesting thing, I just passed First Coast Comedy Club. You may recall a past version of this January-February trip was the Space Coast Loop, Space Coast. So the interesting thing, I called this the Florida Coast trip, adventure, whatever, and that is because I'm going to be on multiple coasts. Florida has, I don't think it's unique, but a notable thing. It looks like I'm in Mayport, by the way, Mayport Brewing Company here. Florida calls different portions of its Atlantic coast different things. This is the First Coast, it is called. I believe there's a Treasure Coast, there's of course the Space Coast. I can't quite remember, I think Daytona has its own name. I'll mention them if I remember to, but I noted that. There is actually a Wikipedia page on the subject, which I looked at when trying to consider the name of this. Considered many names, but I thought Florida Coast was probably the best thing, and also happens to be search code optimization friendly or search engine optimization friendly. Are we doing that anymore? I don't even know. I never really did, which probably speaks to the high quality nature of this program. Let's see. So I am on sidewalks. It is between 10 and 11. Pardon me. My guide decided to stop right in the middle of the sidewalk to block my ability to go in. That happens. We share our pedestrian and cycling infrastructure. So anyways, the timing of this means that the sun is climbing in the sky, so it's actually a little bit better out. It's not shining so much in my face, which I'm liking. Temperatures are going up. Did roll down those sleeves. Feeling pretty good about my sun protection at the moment. I am going to reapply my 100 SPF spray to my face. I did bring that kind of, I'll call it roll-on, but that's probably the wrong thing. It's a stick version. It has a lower SPF. I think maybe 60 or 80 perhaps it is. And that's handy in a pinch too, but I think the spray is so, I've got the spray, I may as well use it. It's a higher SPF and it is pretty convenient. I do not care, I never have cared for the lotions. And there's a lot of, if you really want to get into sunscreen and all of that, there is quite a bit of information on it. And it looks like I am supposed to make a turn here at some point. And there's a whole bunch of things about zinc-based ones and a whole bunch of other things. Well, in any event, sunscreen, lots of science behind it. All right, I'll leave it at that. More to come. So now I am starting to take some side roads here in this area and ratchets me down, and apologies for the wind, I'm starting to get a little bit of a headwind here. It ratchets me down to essentially the coast, which is the First Coast, as I mentioned before, named the First Coast, at least in this area. And then I will truly have the ocean to my left shoulder starting in a little bit. We are not quite, actually I'm just about at 15 miles into the trip, so 37 to go. Feeling really good, feeling really strong. I did stop at a mini mart and got the first of what will be many kind of like, whoa, from people outside. It is quite the sight to behold, this bike with the backpack on the back and me looking a little sun-toasted and rocking the bandana, and it's a little much probably. First of many community parks that I'll be seeing. The great thing about them is I'm already seeing there's a water bottle filling station there. I think the ability to get water will be pretty high. When I stopped at the mini mart, of course, I ended up getting a Gatorade, and as I was cycling away, I realized, oh, I forgot something. I forgot something pretty important, and I'm not sure how I'm going to handle this, and that is I did not bring, to the best of my knowledge, my electrolyte pills, and that could be really problematic on this trip and others where there's sun and a lot of sweating, which I expect there to be. I end up having some pretty big electrolyte deficiency-based cramping that goes on, and it can be really painful and bad, and I need those to avoid it. So I may have to try to find something like that, or hope that what I consume can handle that. Unfortunately, that has not been the case ever. So I am going to have to figure something out. It's hard to get that balance right. And like I said, this is a lot of cycling for me out of the gate. I haven't had anything since the fall, and your legs just do problematic things for you during that time. So hopefully I can find something, or I'll get lucky on this trip. I guess we'll see. You'll be the first to know, of course, in the screams of anguish. This is not a pleasant thing, which is why I usually do remember these things, but I did not, because it's a little bit rushed pulling stuff together. And of course, my mind has been in a variety of other places, handling a variety of things that I haven't had to in the past. So, but I am greeted by the dulcet tones, not dulcet tones, the horrific smells of a water treatment facility. I don't know why it is. Bike trips always take me by these places. It's really an unpleasant smell. It's sewagey and yeah, not pleasant. So hopefully I will get out of this wastewater treatment plant area in a moment here as I make a right. And I am upwind of it now too. Thank you, Atlantic breezes. Beautiful sidewalk in this area where, as we get closer to the coast, as you might imagine, the home values shoot up, and we are in a very different kind of neighborhood than I was before. So hopefully a bike-friendly one. I am still gonna rock the sidewalks where appropriate, especially where it seems like that's what they intend bicycles to be on. So we will see. I'll be kind of making another left here, and I think that'll take me out. It looks like, based on the map, that'll be taking me out to within a couple blocks of the ocean. It does seem like, let's see, if I'm going south, it looks like the winds are coming from the south, unfortunately, so I will have a little bit of a headwind today. Like I said, a lot of the time the winds will be going north to south down here, but it may not be my luck. The weather is the weather. You just accept it. You all know that from these bike adventures. From Neptune Beach, Florida. Fans of Veronica Mars like me, the television program, will be very excited that I am in Neptune Beach. Neptune is the fictional California town where Veronica Mars does most of her sleuthing. It is the show that sort of replaced Buffy the Vampire Slayer for me in terms of high school as a metaphor for life television programming, and a young female protagonist who kicks a lot of butt. So check it out if you have not. Veronica Mars. Very fun show. Town is very beachy. Has a kind of a mix of upper class and maybe some middle class going on here. I'm sure these homes are all worth quite a bit. I feel like this has become a real estate program as well as a food program that occasionally mixes in biking. Ooh, and I caught my first glimpse of two things. The first thing was just now, which I'll mention, and that is my first sand dune. So that means that I am officially close enough to see ocean-related things here on my left shoulder, which is great. And then the thing that I saw a few minutes ago was the first sign for the East Coast Greenway. So I am definitely officially on here, even though I knew I was before. But it was nice. It was on somebody's property. So you can tell that somebody who gave them the permission, it was at a very smart spot for it too, because it's much, much more sedate here on this back road. And that person who lived there, or owns that property at least, definitely did those of us way seeking a favor by having that there. Let's see, where am I at? I am checking the map right now. I'm 17 miles in, a little over that actually, and working my way through Neptune Beach. My recollection is that there's a long period of time coming up soon, I can't remember when, where it's a very long stretch of nothing until we hit the outer parts of St. Augustine. And that's why I'm glad that I've got my Gatorade with me. Did I mention that I got that? I think I may have blown through that with my report about going to the store. I got a Red Bull, which has given me wings at this point, as they say, and I got a Gatorade, and that's what got me into the whole thing about my electrolytes. That's right, I did talk about this. So I also have as I think I mentioned, a bagel and cream cheese left over from the hotel breakfast that shall serve as lunch, and I also have a bunch of nuts as well as some cashews if you really want to be specific. So, seeing a neighborhood greenway sign, very Portland of Neptune Beach to do that. So yeah, a really lovely portion of the ride here. If you're interested in looking at houses and stuff as you go by, very interesting. If you were hoping to see beach, you're not really checking that out too much. The Florida coast, I think, is largely developed. And that's one of the bummers about it, is that you don't get a lot of kind of good beach peeping until I get further south here. But it is what it is, and it makes me appreciate Oregon at least, which is the opposite. It has not developed most of its coast. So that's why riding on it is so fun and so delightful. So, all right, I am going to continue southbound here. I've got, well, far more than, it looks like I'm a third of the way done. 17.4 miles in, 34.6 to go, so roughly a third of the way in. Do 2 more of these and I will be at camp. At some point where there is a relevant stop in the next at least 10 minutes from now, and maybe a little bit more, I'm gonna stop, hydrate, and put on some new sunscreen. I think I'm gonna be trying to do that at the top of the hour as often as I can. And also just to give myself a little bit of a break, get some electrolytes in me from that Gatorade that I've got. Oh, a real-time update on the Gatorade. No grape, 0. They had all these, all the flavors, how they all have names now, but it's not clear what the flavors are. Like, yeah, sure, there was a purplish one, but was it really grape? It was something lightning. I was very disappointed because as the only true flavor of any sports drink, regardless of brand, is grape. So I got the classic Gatorade, the yellowish one, the OG one, the one they invented in Gainesville, University of Florida. In any event, that will be on the menu, in addition to maybe a few nuts to get going. And then I will take a lunch break, maybe in another hour or so. I would like to get at least perhaps to the point where I am halfway before I start doing that. Plus, I had a huge breakfast and I'm not terrifically hungry off the top of my head. Off the top of my head, that's the wrong way of putting it. I'm already getting bike touring brain. Classic. But the one thing that I will mention is my appetite is fine. My ability to drink water is fine. That thing that I had in Oregon does not seem to be a thing here, which is good because that would be a real problem otherwise. But this has been great. This neighborhood greenway is very delightful. Big ups to Neptune Beach for creating this amazing and very quiet ride that puts out some miles. Ooh, e-bikes, reckless operation prohibited. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I think we're going to start seeing some of that. No, we're going to get away from bans on e-bikes, but we're going to start creating some rules and regulations around the operation of said e-bikes. So that'll be interesting. That will be interesting. All right, much more to come. From Jacksonville Beach, Florida. Beautiful kind of bike way here. Got my first picture of the beach with the bike, which is nice. Now we can truly see the sand. This, of course, is the main beach for this part of the state. Got a fishing pier here that I'm passing. There was a good spot for me to hydrate and reapply sunscreen. Ran into a guy there who asked me a local question, to which I said, I am not from around here, but he was wearing a pro tip for you from outside of the United States. If you see somebody in this region of the country, anywhere in the South, with kind of a script A and you're having a discussion with them of any type, just say, "Roll Tide." They will appreciate it. They are fans of the University of Alabama's probably football team, but probably everything, but really the football team. So he said, "Thanks for noticing." Actually, I noticed his accent before I noticed the script day. In any event, that was a nice moment. Yeah, just a delightful day of riding so far. Bike is performing just fine. I don't think I am in need of the things that I was wanting to do. I'm just noticing there's probably a bike shop somewhere around here, but I'm not feeling the need for it. I think the most important thing that I could use is just a top off on the air and the tires, but it's rolling just fine at this point. Interesting. I always say when you can take advantage of a bathroom, you should, and there's a big long row of porta potties here. Wow, there's a lot. There must be some kind of a festival going on or something, or this is just for the beach. Boy, there's 50 of them. Pretty wild. I think maybe I will follow my own advice. Yeah, we're right by the public parking and stuff, so that must be it, yeah. So I will follow my own advice and take advantage of a bathroom while I have it. Because like I said, I think once I get much further than Jacksonville Beach, things get real quiet real quick. Just crossed over into St. John County. I think it's St. John County. Keep saying Canadians will understand, but maybe you guys have figured it out. So the difference between St. John and St. John's, I have not in your country or elsewhere, apparently. Things have opened up a little bit, fewer homes. They're still here, though. I suspect that's going to start to ebb because now we're starting to get into the place where we get more rural really quickly. I think it's Ponte Verde. You'll have to forgive me. There's lots of Pontas and lots of Verdes and lots of similar named towns here on the Florida coast. And this is an area I'm nowhere near as familiar with as opposed to Central Florida. So if I screwed up, apologies to you First Coasters. First golf course of the trip will not be the last. Lots of golf courses here in Florida. This one looks pretty scraggly, to be honest, but it is right here on the ocean. That's got to be a tough one to maintain, I would imagine. A lot of saltwater intrusion, etc., etc. There is my complete knowledge of grass right there. Salt bad. We are in a spot where the speed limits are 15 miles per hour. I could actually probably get the Brompton up to 15 if I really wanted to try. But very soon I will be making a move onto another road if memory serves. Well, actually it's 6 miles it looks like. But if you look at the map, I'm effectively just staying on the same straightaway here. I'm going to get over on the sidewalk because there is no shoulder in this section once we moved into this new county. And I think people behind me will appreciate it, although they can't go much faster than me. Passing the Ponte Verde Inn and Club, so I was correct. Ponte Verde. From Ponte Verde, Florida. Let's see. Now the person that I got out of the way of, who is not going much faster than me, I'm going to have to get back in front of at some points here because my sidewalk is lost here. I am just barely starting to get a little bit of that hydration fatigue, I'll call it, which is my legs are starting to feel it. I'm nearly, well, not quite. I'm a few miles away from halfway. 22, almost 23 miles here in. 26 will be halfway for the day. So makes some sense. I have been taking it easy. I have not taken many breaks, very short ones. So I do think that my next one, which I'll probably take in the next 25 minutes or so, depending on what's available, I may actually consider having a lengthier break and a good stretch, finish my electrolyte drink, get some more water in me. I think all of that will be really handy. Looks like they're doing some major demo here of a beachside club of some type. And huge construction. This is also a construction podcast in addition to being a real estate podcast when we're talking about the Florida trips, as you all know, because there's so much of it and I bike through so much of it. I mean, the entire state is vacation land, retirement land. It is a place where lots of people come for all sorts of reasons. I like to take advantage of the cycling and not much more. Well, in Disney World, and I tend to combine the two things, as you all know. But yeah, this is there was a point in my life, which I may have made reference to, where in law school, or in college, I came very close. I applied. I didn't come close to. I did apply to the University of Florida Law School with the intention of that being the one that I would have gone to, because at that time I was very interested in moving to Florida. But that changed in no small part to the fact that I did not get into the University of Florida. It is a tough law school, at least it was back then, to get into as an out-of-stater. And so, despite my, I think, excellent track record and fairly decent grades, was not accepted. And that's probably all for the best, because I think in years since, although I do appreciate Florida and I love coming down here for visits, I don't think ultimately it would have been a great place for me to live personally. Shout out to all of you who do make that choice, and I hope you enjoy it. I just think, for me, it's a great place to visit, especially around this time of year. What a glorious break it is. Beautiful weather, nice scenery, nice things to do, but I do not have to pay your ever-rising insurance rates, your housing prices that have gone up quite a bit. Maybe I would have gotten in early, but who knows. I think that Florida, amazing place to visit, not for me to live in. But if it is for you, then I celebrate that. Lots of those familiar no trespassing signs from past trips, where it's just, well, of course, I mean, I'm not going to go on your property. But it is interesting how there are some people that are very serious about that. And maybe they have a good reason for it, but I find it silly, especially in a place like this. It's a very wealthy neighborhood, as you would expect here on beachside homes, single-family homes. This is not multi-unit dwellings at all. These are folks who have done well for themselves and are here in Ponte Vedra, Florida, celebrating their success, etc., which is good for them. So, now that I have offended everybody who is a resident of the state of Florida, particularly those who live here in Ponte Vedra, I will leave you. The road, again, as I mentioned, is starting to thin out. The sidewalk is excellent. Obviously, I am sharing that with folks, and that's been fine. It's pretty quiet today. It's a Thursday as I cycle here. And let's see here. I'm going to work my way around somebody. Coming up here on your... I'll just go around you. Oh, sharing. We love to share. Lady with a dog taking up the entire sidewalk. But luckily there was no vehicle behind me, so I could just go out on the road. All good. We love to share. So, I will bid you adieu until further on south. From Ponte Vedra Boulevard, I must say it again, Ponte Vedra. I've been saying it wrong this whole time. Ponte Vedra. That is where I'm at. It is a wealthy place. Good for them. I am also outside of, I believe, and it's Sawgrass, a private community, it says. So I have found in this private community the one patch of shade, it seems, on this entire road. There are no public facilities that I can find. So I saw this. It's noon. I thought I would grab it while I can. I'm slightly on their private community property, but hopefully everybody will be chill that I'm eating a bagel and drinking Gatorade here. I do not fit in, needless to say. But I will be moving on very soon. The sun has come out. It is robust. I am going to enjoy the shade, and I am going to get out of here as soon as I can. Soon, very soon, in the next few miles, I will be getting on what can only be best described as a spit, a narrow island, a narrow jut of land that is in between two bodies of water. One, the Atlantic Ocean on one side, and the other, I don't know, some other, perhaps the intercoastal waterway for all I know. But that will be probably also very exposed to the sun as well. So getting out of the sun for even a little bit is probably a great idea. I'm going to take this extended break too, which I think will be good. I am almost precisely halfway. Let me check my mileage. Well, my face is nowhere near this thing, so let's see. I have to put in my code, which I will not tell you. I am almost exactly halfway. I am just 26.2 miles in, 25.9 to go. So I'm in good shape. I've been going for 4 hours. My ETA is about 3 hours according to this. That'll see me getting there in 3 hours. I think I'll be taking some breaks. Usually my back half is slower than my front half. And of course I'm taking a longer break here. I don't know how long it'll be. I always say I take long breaks, and for many of you, you would consider it one of your short breaks. But I also feel exposed even though I'm okay. Interesting assholery around here. Going down the sidewalk, lady with a dog didn't even move. I was on the right side as I was supposed to be, and she was on the left and didn't move at all. Didn't even make a motion to move. That was weird. I came to almost a full stop in front of her because I was waiting for someone to pass her. She didn't know about that other person. She was just interested in making me move. So weird, but that's all right. We share these things. We share these paths, as I like to say, but that was weird. And other than that, nothing of note. Seeing a few cyclists, mostly folks who are doing it in the fitness realm, not so much in the racy realm. In fact, I see two right now, one coming in either direction. And they're moving a lot faster than me, as one would expect, because they are probably not doing 52-ish miles today, nor are they hauling camping gear and all that other stuff. So, but that is that. I am very much enjoying this. Interesting. There's a lot of there here. In other words, it's a residential place. There's lots going on here. But at the same time, there are no amenities at all because it's all privately held. So I may as well be in the middle of nowhere at the same time. It's interesting, that juxtaposition. There's no place to get water. There's nothing. I'm sure if I really was in trouble, I could go to the beach gate here and ask the security folks if they had access to anything. But yeah, nothing. So I'm glad I've got plenty of water to get me through. I did bring my water cube and filled that at least halfway. So, all right, more to come as I get south. From south of Pontevedra, on the spit of land that I mentioned, we are now in the section where I believe we are done with multi-million-dollar homes. We are on a road with a very nice wide shoulder, which is great. But I've got about a solid 10 miles of open road, it looks like. It actually closer to 15 before I get down to Volano Beach, which will be the southern point of this island, Spit Island, whatever we're going to call it. And then we're very close to St. Augustine from there. So yeah, starting to feel a little bit of fatigue in the legs. So I think I may be stopping more frequently just to stand and stretch the quads a little bit. Of course, on a real flat ride or a mostly flat ride, you're pedaling the whole time. So there's very little time or opportunity to coast. So you got to give yourself the breaks when you can. I have had all of my Gatorade, so I won't be having anything else with any kind of sugar in it or any kind of electrolytes for at least until I get down to Volano Beach, which, like I said, that is probably 15 miles away. 14.6 it looks like, give or take. And so I'll hopefully have a chance to maybe stop there. But then it's a very short, probably a punishing amount of time left. But I'll be riding through St. Augustine at that point. So it's 1 o'clock right now. Sun's starting to dip in the sky. It hit its high point probably a little bit ago. I don't know if it's always at noon. You sun people probably know more. But it's sunny, it's warm. Let's see, I'm very curious what the temperature is right now. It is 62. So very nice, great riding temperature, but the sun is a lot and there's just not a lot of shade. And I don't expect there to be any shade for the next probably couple of hours. I figure it's going to take me probably 2 hours to get down to that point. That gets me to 3, probably another hour, give or take, before I get to camp, so that's 4-ish. But I probably will end up taking a break in St. Augustine at some point just to grab something so that I've got food for camp. I'm sure I'm going to be pretty tired by the end of all of this, even though it's only 20 miles left. Wind seems to have turned around and is now at my back, which, for now at least, but the winds have not been very strong, so it's been just fine. But yeah, pretty comfortable other than the sun exposure. Again, covering up, putting on the sunscreen, all the good stuff. But yeah, so far so good. All right, this is probably going to be maybe picturesque. We shall see. But I've been really enjoying things so far. I'm glad I'm out of Pontevedra, though. It was a lot of just big homes. And it was just suddenly like, okay, look, another multi-million-dollar mansion, which is fine. But that just wasn't very interesting to me. I do think that I'll get a lot more beach looks for the next probably couple of hours, which I'm excited about. From South Pontevedra. I'm south of Pontevedra because I am in, it's probably Vedra. Pontevedra? Pontevedra I'll go with. You know I'm south because I'm in South Pontevedra. Hey, things are going well. Drinking some extra water, that's felt pretty good. Taking a brief break here at 1:41 p.m. I am 15.6 miles away from my campsite. I'm realizing that I'm going to have to call them at some point. There's two ways to get in. There's a long way and a short way. I choose the short way. The short way, though, has a coded gate, basically. And I have to call them to get said code to said gate. So I'm going to do that probably as I get closer to St. Augustine. Perhaps when I'm taking a break in St. Augustine getting some food. I have no sense of where I'm going to be doing that. Another factor here for all you non-planners. I am one of you. I am one with you today, and really for this entire trip, because often I will have scoped out places to maybe go to, and I have done zero of it, precisely zero of it. So it's going to be, hey, what's in front of me? And we'll just do that. Hopefully there'll be something halfway decent, particularly something that I can get to go. I am very much feeling the pull of camp because I would like to get there with enough time to be able to get set up, get a shower in, maybe be able to do a little bit of work on the bike to the extent that I'm able to, and just chill. I've been pushing today. That's probably been the best for me. The temperature and everything's been great, but the sun exposure, of course, is a lot. So, I think I'd like to get in probably sunsets around 6-ish. I wouldn't be surprised if I'm asleep sometime around 7. Typically in these camps, depending on what's there, if there's a picnic table and if the bugs aren't bad, I'll hang outside because it's a little more comfortable to sit that way. But yeah, I'll often go into the tents. I do have my back jack with me and maybe watch a little something on my phone, maybe, or listen to some music or check email or something. But I expect to be out like a light because I would like to get up again, probably in the 6 o'clock hour. Just because if twilight's around a little bit before 7 or around 7, yeah, I wouldn't mind getting going early tomorrow because I got tomorrow's my big day. It's 57 miles as opposed to 52. So just an extra 5 miles. But, those last 5 miles you can feel. And then the third day is a little bit less. So that'll be fine. But yeah, to get from St. Augustine to Daytona is a skitch longer. So I'll have to make sure that I handle that. It's starting to cloud up ever so slightly, which really is nice. I'm feeling, the good thing is that I am not feeling, like I often do, feeling the sun on me, which is good, which means I've been doing good about keeping it off of me and putting on sunscreen. I'm going to do that again here in this break. This is a difficult spot. This whole stretch is a difficult spot for taking a break because there's just no place to lean the bike, and of course it can't self-support. But thankfully, I can reach back and grab my sunscreen very easily without too much of a hassle. So having just done that as I described it, I'm excited that I can put it on. So I'll do that. I'll spray the face, maybe stretch the legs just ever so slightly, give a good calf stretch. By the way, I am a big proponent of the calf stretch. If you take your foot and make it a right angle relative to your rest of your leg, your ankle, and hold back, give that calf a good stretch. There are some really good things that happen as a cyclist. Everything is connected in your leg, and it'll help your hips. I shouldn't say that. I don't know if it'll help your hips. It helps my hips. So your mileage may vary. I am not a doctor. I am not a physical therapist, but I do know that this is what is recommended by many of those folks. So consider the calf stretch as a method to help you out. I am hoping that maybe it will also help with my quads a little bit, because of course they are taking on a lot on this ride. But overall, I feel very good. One of my concerns going into this, and I think I maybe mentioned it, was December and into January, I was not as active as I would have been had things gone a different way in my personal life. But I did join a local YMCA. I did get on the bike at least more than a handful of times. So I'm not doing this completely off the couch. And I think that's really made a big difference. I do feel pretty good about that. Also lost a little bit of weight, even through the holidays, throughout all that. I got on a scale expecting it to be a disaster, but actually I've maintained and even lost a couple of pounds since the last time I weighed myself. So hey, that works out okay. Wish I were carrying a little less on me, but that is an evergreen statement for me generally. Okay, with your weight loss check-in update and with your calf stretch admonition, I'm gonna let you go. I am, let's see how far I am. I'm 9.5 miles before I get on the Francis and Mary Usina Bridge, which takes me into, I believe, St. Augustine. I believe so. So that'll be picturesque and beautiful. I do know, and I'm hoping for some really good bike lanes on that. I do know that the one that takes me onto the island where my campsite is has excellent bike infrastructure. So hopefully this Francis and Mary Bridge is as good or better. All right, much more to come. Really enjoying it so far. Temps are just glorious. I love this cool but not cold weather. I think it's going to be great for sleeping tonight. I'm loving this. I'm loving this. From Villano, Florida. Villano Beach, Florida, almost. I don't know if they're two separate towns, but they seem it. Here I am, and I'm about to turn right to continue on A1A, and I will be going over the Francis and Mary Usina Bridge. I'm going to say Usina. It's U-S-I-N-A. And that should be interesting. And then I'm a mere, let's see here, how many miles away are we looking? I'm 6 miles from camp. I will absolutely be taking a break in the very near future. The question ends up being, does it make more sense to do it in St. Augustine or on the island that I will be on, which would put me into Anastasia? I'm going to have to do a little bit of research to see if there's anything over on that side that looks good. But I think actually after going over this bridge, I may be really wanting a break. So I'll just follow the pathway or the route that I have and hope that something looks good, something looks safe for the bike as well. Of course, I do have the lock, but certain situations are better than others for it. And yeah, figure it out. I'm not super hungry right now, but I have a funny feeling what will happen is I will get hungry in the period of time when I stop. So I'm going to make sure that I've got food and food I would like to eat for camp if I decide to do it that way. I don't think I'm going to sit down and feel hungry enough to get something at a sit down. I also feel a little bit gross, as one would expect. I'm covered in sunscreen and sweat, and I'm sure I could clean up a little bit, but you know how it goes when you're out here on these bike adventures. Going back into civilization is a little bit much. That was a long ride, I'm not going to lie, and a long ride through really not a lot going on. It's interesting. These rides in Florida have long periods with no services, but this one was unique in the sense that there were tons of homes. I mean, I was near stuff all the time, but no services even a little bit. It wasn't until just recently where there were parks, beach parks of note, and it didn't even look like that there was much more than pit toilets there. So it was good that I filled up on all the water that I did. It was good that I stopped for the Gatorade and the Red Bull when I did, but I've been pretty self-contained today, which is good. I will certainly do the same tomorrow. I will definitely bring a lot of water with me in the cube. I didn't stress about water. I drank exactly how much I wanted, and maybe even a little bit more, and I think that's good for me. Quads are feeling it right now, but that makes sense to me. I've done 45.9 miles and haven't really taken very many breaks, just because I really wanted to make sure that on this first day, I didn't run out of sun, and I'm fine. It's barely after 3 o'clock right now, so I'm doing really good. I did bang out these miles pretty good. It's funny, I was reflecting going, do I need to start reducing the number of miles I think I'm going to do in a day? Am I getting to that age or something? And I was like, well, there's two factors here. One, I took almost no breaks. Two, I'm not in bike shape. I wasn't a disaster, but I haven't done any biking really of any note. And three, I think it is different riding the Brompton. The Brompton does do really well, I feel like, except I think that it's just on longer distances. I think you have to reduce your expectations. And I think the 50-mile day is a pretty good one. I've got longer tomorrow. I think tomorrow may hurt a little bit more, but we'll just see how it goes. I think a little bit earlier start will allow me to chill a little bit. The fact that I'm going to be ending closer to 4 o'clock, knowing that I've got a little bit more headspace in terms of hours of daylight, especially if I leave that extra hour earlier. I really didn't leave until 8. So I think that I could probably leave an hour earlier and translate that into a break, and that alone will be good. So those are the thoughts that I've got here as we're starting to think about winding down day one, but I'm feeling much better than I anticipated. I thought today would be a little rough. I still obviously have a few miles to go, but I don't anticipate that being a problem. So now it's exploration time. I get to see St. Augustine for the first time in a couple of years, and I will also be starting to scout out for some food and maybe even an adult beverage perhaps for this evening at the camp. So that's that. We're doing good. We're moving along and feeling good about it. From St. Augustine, I am at Tea of St. Augustine, groceries, coffee, lotto, and ice cream, grabbing dinner for tonight. Thought I would do the grocery round. It's more of a mini mart than a grocery store, but it's fine. I ate a banana, and why? Why, may you ask? Well, I'm hungry, yes, but most importantly, it's because there is a ton of potassium in bananas, and potassium is one of those things in electrolytes that I think will be helpful. So I ate the heck out of that. I also have basically a sandwich, and I got ice cream, because why not? And most importantly, another electrolyte drink. So I am really hoping to stave off the possibility of having any cramps tonight. So we'll just see how that goes. I am a mere few miles away. In fact, let me pull out other device with map on it, and I can tell you how far away we are. I am, hold on, 3.8 miles. So that should be really easy. Now, the only thing is that I do have to make that phone call and hopefully get that code. If I don't get that code, it's a problem, but I think what I would do is I would just throw the stuff over the gate and work it that way, because I can't go around the long way. It would be problematic. So I'm not very far away from, less than a mile away from the bridge, and this is the kind of famous Bridge of Lions here in St. Augustine. And from my last trip here, I passed by a couple of restaurants that I really enjoyed. A brunch place called Sunday, highly recommend. And then a Cuban coffee place literally right across the street from the very tourist trappy Ponce de Leon Fountain of Youth place, which I don't think I recommend. I haven't been. I wouldn't go. It seems touristy. But it's right down Magnolia Avenue, which, if that's part of the East Coast Greenway, is one of the more stunning blocks you'll ever have. So in any event, that is where I'm at right now. I am going to be in camp soon, and then I will set up a tent, and then I will eat, and then I will take a shower, and then probably collapse. But I'm feeling much better. The closer I get sometimes, the better I feel, and I think that's true for a lot of folks. Looks like my guy is closing up here too, so I barely got in. It was the last customer of the day, it looks like. From Anastasia State Park in Anastasia, Florida, I am at my campsite, and I'm very excited for it because I am eating ice cream and I am all checked in. I was able to get through there was a gate, and there was no way I was getting over it. It was a very tall gate, but luckily somebody who was staying here at the park was there at the exact same time and let me through, because they were walking their dog and it was no problem. And then that way I got all the way to my campsite, and then I called. First call went to voicemail. So I was like, oh, are they closed by now? Because it's 4:38 right now. And then I tried again a few minutes later and got through and got all checked in and got the gate code and everything. And it turns out you don't need a code for the bathhouse or anything like that. So that's great. So I am going to enjoy my rapidly melting ice cream and eat as much of that as I care to eat. And then I've got time. I could take a shower first and then set up my tent, or maybe I'll do it the other way around. I always do like to get that all set up. But I am going to get some calories into me and some electrolytes into me. I think that'll all be very, very good. And and then take a shower and get this grit off me and just get ready for a nice night. It's beautiful here. A lot of ferns and the Spanish moss that I've been seeing so much of. It's just been fantastic. And yeah, what a great first day of riding. And I'm really looking forward to more to come tomorrow. I've got a measurably longer day tomorrow, and it's going to be a lot more of this coastal riding. all the way down to Daytona. By the way, we had talked about different coasts. This is the old coast I have seen references to. And of course, I may have mentioned this in the preview episode. I know I've mentioned it in here. I should qualify what I've said. I said that St. Augustine is the oldest city in North America. That is the oldest European settled city, of course. Depending on what one's definition of city is, of course, there were encampments and all sorts of communities long before Europeans got here. But when Europeans got here, the very first place was here in St. Augustine. So thought that was worth mentioning. Let's see. I don't have much else to say. I'm feeling better than I anticipated. Getting a little sugar in me, I think, is certainly helping. But yeah, it went pretty well. Bike performed very well, I think. Just looking at the chain, it's really in need of, I think, some cleaning. And so that might be another task tonight, just to wipe the grit off of it and then re-lube it. Just looking at it, it's a little bit sad looking at the moment. I think I figured out why my seat was shimming, and it's not. I, of course, tightened the main seat bolt. There's another one, of course, because I have the extended seat post, and I think it's that one that needs some tightening, but that will take two quarter turns or a quarter turn of the bolt on that, and then I think that will be fine. It actually ended up not being a big deal today. I think that the backpack kind of held it mostly in place, which again is another great endorsement of the backpack trick for this. But yeah, it was a good day. I think I'll feel better with a little Advil in me and then some dinner in me, and then we'll get going from there. A shower for sure. But yeah, cooling down a little bit and I'm feeling really good. Getting out of the sun is another nice thing, to be perfectly honest. All right, I think we're going to give this a wrap for the day then on this episode, this first part of the Florida Coast Adventure. It was a big day. It was a good day. And I think it hopefully portends more to come. I don't think I can remember a better first day of riding in a long time. So I think I had some pent-up need for it, as I've mentioned before, and this felt really good. Ask me in a little bit after the Advil kicks in. I think it'll feel a little bit better then. All right. See you soon in part 2. Statistics. Miles biked, 52.5. Miles ferried, 0.3. Towns with beach in the name, 7. Regrets for not stopping for a Cuban coffee, 1. Flats, 0.
Thank you for joining. You can find Pedalshift at pedalshift.net for more great bicycle touring content. You can hear the Pedalshift project through Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app. Opening music courtesy of Jason Kent off his self-titled album. The track is called America. Check out his band Sunfield's latest release, Mono Mono, wherever cool music is available.